Good evening. Welcome to the 46th episode of Rachel Pilcher Writing Workshops Live. Thank you for joining me tonight. I am very happy to be able to get on and present to you today. It was such a beautiful day here in Fort Worth that I spent a lot of time outside. I went out, I picked some pecans, I did all kinds of fun fall type things, and then tomorrow it's supposed to be down by the evening into the 20s, so I covered up a bunch of plants right before I got on, and I wasn't really paying that close attention to time, so you have a nice smooth hairstyle from me today. But I do want to take this opportunity before we get started to remind you announcements. The Panther City Review launch is coming up this next Saturday, November the 16th. It's issue 4, so this is our fourth issue that I've published. I'm very excited about that because, once you get to 4, it's kind of like, okay, well, it's not going to be hard getting to 5. We can do that. But the launch is going to be this Saturday, the 16th, from 4 to 5:30 p.m. It's going to be at Leaves Book and Tea on St. Louis Avenue in Fort Worth. There will be author readings, and you'll have the opportunity to purchase copies as well as get the authors to autograph, because who knows, it might be a New York Times bestseller eventually on the list. So definitely take that opportunity. You'll also be able to sample some of the delicious teas and pastries. They'll be available for sale at Leaves. So there's an event page, official event page is up on my Facebook page, Rachel Pilcher Writing Workshops. Also, it's on the Sleeping Panther Press page, so definitely go and click that you're going to go. That way it'll remind you to go. And then I'm just going to do a real quick thing. Even though it's going to be backwards, you get a sneak preview because you're watching my video. This is the cover. It's a little shiny. So it has a beautiful yucca right in the middle. This is by Martina Milrova. This is the second cover that Martina has had, so I'm very excited to be able to do a little sneak peek of Panther City Review. The next thing is if you're planning for your future, which everybody should be. Actually, tonight's topic is kind of a future planning thing, so we'll get to that momentarily. But my signature class, Write Fearlessly, I will be teaching that with Fort Worth, Writing Workshops Fort Worth. That's what it is, Writing Workshops Fort Worth, on Saturday, February the 8th, 2020. So that's several months into the future. I don't have it quite linked on my website yet, but if you go to Writing Workshops Fort Worth, all one word, Writing Workshops Fort Worth, and it's Fort, F-O-R-T, not F-T. But you go to writingworkshopsfortworth.com, and you'll be able to find class information. There's another class that's taught by the wonderful Rebecca Balsaril. I always mispronounce her name, but she just came out with a wonderful young adult book. It's called The Other Side of Happy. Check it out. She's going to be doing an 8-week-long workshop. Mine is just going to be a seminar, so it's going to be 3 hours. It's going to be from 1 to 4 p.m. February the 8th. So if you're wanting to meet with me in person, this would be the perfect time to learn from me. I'll talk to y'all more about Write Fearlessly the closer we get to the time of the class, especially once I get it posted on my website. It will be under the Rachel in person section, but it's not there yet. So, but it will be. But definitely think about joining in on that. The next thing I want to kind of briefly talk to you about is, how's your NaNoWriMo going? Your National Novel Writing Month. My word count is currently at 14,890. I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay. It's just, what is it, the 10th? It's the 10th. I got time to catch up. It's only 1,800 words. I can get there. No big deal. So if you're behind, just know that it happens to all of us. I got behind mostly because I didn't write anything today. Nothing. I was outside enjoying life. It was beautiful. And it's okay to do that because tomorrow it's going to be so cold, I'm not going to want to do anything but write. So I'll probably get way more than my goal for the day written. So just know it happens. You get behind. You just get, very nice day, get up, get caught up. You can do it. All right. So tonight's topic is creating a writer's business plan. And I do want to take a moment before I get started because I noticed my mom jumped on and she says, "Hi, Rachel." Hi, Mom. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining in. Creating a writer's business plan. That's the topic. It doesn't sound like the most enjoyable thing that you'd want to do on a Sunday night, but it is definitely necessary, and I can guarantee you that it'll help you focus on what your goals are as a writer and how you plan to succeed. So, it's something that it's kind of like doing your taxes. You don't really want to do it. You don't really enjoy doing it, but it benefits you in the long run to do it because, fees, things like that. So what this is going to do is it's going to provide you with a clear path for you to follow so that you don't go astray within your writing business and start doing things that are not going to help you go forward with your goals. So the first thing you need to do, as with most business plans, if you've ever worked on a business plan or set out any kind of a strategic plan, whether it's business, whether it's with work, this is the same thing. So for a writer, the first thing you're going to do is write your mission statement. What is it that you want your brand to be as a writer? So for examples of how to build your brand, look at some other writers. What did they do to make a niche for themselves? What is the first thing that you want readers to see whenever they see your name in print besides, "I got to buy that book"? What is it that you want to look? So look at other writers. There are some writers like Gail Carriger. She writes kind of like a steampunk fiction, fantasy fiction, and she dresses in steampunk wear and wears Victorian clothing and sometimes dresses as a 1950s housewife. So she does costumes. But this is also with your mission statement is, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a writer of, a well-known writer of graphic novels, a well-known writer of realistic fiction for adults or for young adults? What is it that you want to do? So that's the first thing, your summary. What is it that you want to do? Number 2 is objectives. So you have to have objectives to be able to accomplish what your main goal is. So your objective, I highly encourage you just to shoot for the stars. What is your dream goal? Do you want your dream goal to be, I want to write the #1 bestseller for, Random House in, romantic fiction? That could be your dream goal. And that could be the objective that you set forth is, how do I want to get from this point to this point? And shoot for the stars. Make it so that it is something that you can look at and just keep working towards. But you also have to realize that it might take a lot of work and a lot of time to get there. But that's going to be your objective. Your objective is to eventually get to that point. Number 3, create a production schedule. So in your production schedule, what you're going to have here, and it could be a table that you put out, it could be an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is that you do on, a table on Word, an Excel spreadsheet. I know I'm repeating myself, but I had to clarify what table meant. So you'll want to list on this table or this spreadsheet what you currently have on the back burner. And what the back burner means is, it's story ideas that you have, but you haven't really written anything towards that. You'll want to then have a section for works in progress so that you kind of know where it is. Is this the first draft? Is this the second draft? Is it halfway written? Is it, where are you in that progress of the work in progress? And then you'll have a section that has completed work in it. And that's just a production schedule that you can have, that you can look at and go, okay, I'm going to set a date for, the completed work. When am I going to start submitting that? For the works in progress, how am I going to arrange that to where I can have, I'll have this story done by this date and this part done by this date, and put specific dates on it. And then for those stuff that you have on the back burner, eventually you can move that to the front. So I definitely suggest that you do this on some kind of a document. Do this whole business plan on a document so that you can go back in and you can rearrange things to be where you want them to be as you accomplish them. And it could be that you rewrite your business plan every year. It's always a good thing to do because you have to reevaluate where you are. So this is just production schedule. So it's just looking at that and what you have currently in production. Number 4, what are your markets for publication? So on those completed works, going back to that, you need to track what you've done to get them published. And if you have a whole bunch of things that you have completed, but you haven't done anything with them, now is your chance. Look over them, make sure that they are really publisher ready, and start looking over them and get them to where they need to be to start submitting them. Because your goal as a writer, even though many of you probably write for fun and you're like, oh, I don't want to give this to anybody, your goal really is to be published, and it should be. If you're doing this, you need to get your stories out. So you start looking at where you're going to submit that work. So it's a good idea to do this for your future writing as well, because that way you can kind of have an idea of what audience that you're looking for. So at this point also, when you do the submission, it's always good to keep track of what dates you submitted, where you submitted, what dates, and the result. Did you get a rejection? Did you get a maybe? Did you not get anything? Just have that in your list. So one of the things you might also want to do with this markets for publication is you're trying to find who will publish your work. So you may want to dream big here. What markets would you want to break into? Do you write a specific type of fantasy that you think may be on the verge of coming up? Like you saw a book and maybe that could be an interesting way to go, and then just track and see how far it goes. Of course, do know that publication schedules, they usually, books get signed, and 14 months later, it becomes an actual printed book. So wherever the market is going from that point, just know that this was decided probably 14 months before. But if you're just seeing a trickle, you could always get in on the back side of it. It's always, publishers always want to look for that next great thing. Remember whenever I talked to y'all about, what a publisher is looking for. They want that next big thing that's going to make them all the money. That's what they want. They want money. That's why they're in it. That's why they spend their money, so they can get more money. But you'll also want to look at movies that are coming out, TV, other books, podcasts. What are people talking about that are similar to what you're doing? So you can see what kind of audience those people have that you can use to market your own work. So finding your markets for publication, there's a lot of work to it. This is a lot of times whenever they say, okay, what are the comps for your book? Well, you already will have that if you've done the markets to publication for your work. You'll know, okay, this book is similar to this is to this, and it doesn't have to be just like it, just has to be close. It has to have the same idea. And it always helps if it's something that's made a lot of money, because then you can say, this has made a lot of money, and I think my book is just as good or better. So that'll work. Okay, so the 5th is financials. So with the financials, this is where it becomes real businessy. So this is the business part of it, where you're tracking what you make for the work that you're doing. And you'll want to include everything in this. So you'll want to include your writing work. You'll want to include money from your day job, because that money is supporting your ability to do the writing. And if you are submitting to publications that require a reader's fee or something like that, and sometimes they do, I wouldn't pay a whole lot of money. Like for Panther City Review, $5, and generally you get that back if you get accepted, because you get a copy of the book. And if you don't, if you don't get in, you get a critique of your work. So, it has to be something where you're going to probably get something back for it. But, you're going to want to include everything that you make money on that. And then you have to think of the kind of monetary things or non-monetary things that you earn with your writing. So, are you earning followers on Facebook or Instagram, or on Twitter, or are you getting website traffic? Are you getting more newsletter signups? Because all of that can equal to more money. Because when a publisher asks you, well, how are you doing on your work? What is it that, what is your following? You'll be able to say, well, I went from January to December of 2019, and I increased my followers on Facebook by 400. I started off at this and I ended at this. I had 700 visitors per month to my website, that kind of stuff. So just keeping track of that and going and looking at it every month to see what you are doing to earn money and to earn the non-monetary followers is going to be useful for you as part of your business plan, part of the financials. You'll also want to go in and track what kind of money you've spent. So if you've ended up spending money on ads for Facebook, or if you've spent money on workshops, on submission fees, on buying books, you'll want to keep track of how much you spent on that. How much has your writing job cost you to be able to do? So, some people even go through and they track the words that they've written, because the more words you write, the more likely you're going to have something that's going to be publishable at some point. It's sort of like a NaNoWriMo on steroids. They'll track it every month. It's like, I've written 75,000 words this month. I should have written this many. It's part of what are you doing to build your business. And it's the financial part, because like I said, the more words that you write, the more likely is you're going to actually be able to make some money off those words. So the sixth thing is growth. So growth, this is the last one. Growth is where you evaluate the types of improvement that you've seen in your writing. And, this is very similar to the financial section, where what have you done to increase your knowledge? So, have you taken workshops? Have you purchased books for your business library? I highly encourage you to have a business library, to have something with the craft of your work. So if you write horror, buy books on how to write horror, or different ways to build that genre. And what you have done to grow that has helped you do that in your writing. So evaluate the knowledge of a specific workshop that you did that gave you the momentum to move forward. So like if I went to a workshop, which I recently went to one where I learned a whole bunch about doing YouTube videos and how to get followers and how to do that. So I am going to be upping my game in the next couple of weeks and months to work towards getting more followers on YouTube for my videos, and to do more to increase the flow of work to my videos. So y'all probably be seeing some YouTube videos here on Facebook, and if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. I have increased my watchers on YouTube. But what have you learned that's going to help move you forward? That's what is very helpful with workshops. If you go to a workshop and you leave and you're like, well, I don't think I've learned anything that's going to help me, that's not good. That's not good. And I've been to those workshops where it's like, why did I waste my money? Why did I waste my time? I could have been writing. I could have been doing something productive instead of going to that workshop. And a lot of times it's not because of the presenter. It could be because, you did not, and I'm not putting it on you, but maybe you did not quite estimate your abilities well. Like you may have estimated that you knew less than what you did going in. I've done that. That's part of where I'm like, oh, that really didn't help me very much because I just did a workshop over stuff I already knew. So, but that is the basics of building a plan. It can be quite eye-opening for writers to do a business plan, especially, like me, once, and you find once you've done it that you haven't set your sights high enough. That was one of the things I had. I redid my business plan shortly before taking the notes for this to figure out how I was going to do this. I found I didn't set my sights high enough. So I'm going to be working at setting my sights higher. And I think you should too. Definitely spend some time this week developing a business plan. I know many of you are doing NaNoWriMo, but this is something that'll help you with NaNoWriMo, especially if you're like, well, I'm stuck. I can't get past this part right here. Take a moment, think about what you want to do for your business as a writer. You'll be glad you did. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you found this information helpful, please make sure to click on the like button right over there, and feel free to share this video with others who you think could benefit from my words of advice. I look forward to meeting with you next Sunday right here on the Rachel Pilcher Writing Workshops page for another writerly discussion. You have a good evening. Stay warm this next week because it's going to get frigid. Good night.